Hey, maybe you shouldn't watch this while you're eating, because what you're looking at right now is the natural bacteria that lives on the human scalp, and its favorite food is oil. So the more oils, butters, and greases you add to the scalp, the more this is able to colonize. And I talk about it on my channel all the time, but there's pushback. So let's jump into this.
So I wasn't going to make this video, but it's extremely concerning to me just how many people really allow Sindal this much influence here in the natural community. And I don't fault y'all, but it's just really concerning because she's anti-natural hair, because she couldn't do natural hair even on her best day, because all she knows how to do is relax straight hair. And actually, and if you follow her for quite some time, you know that she was a huge advocate for relaxers and relaxed hair, and we know the dangers and the risks associated with that. I've done a video years ago highlighting her misinformation of basic cosmetology theory and concepts, and how her cosmetology instructor completely failed her. You can watch that video here, linked in the info bar below. But please stop giving this woman so much clout and so much influence here on this platform. It's just no. Just no.
Yes, sir!
Now what you're looking at right now is a sebaceous plug. Basically, the sebum has crystallized within their hair follicle, and so this esthetician or trichologist or cosmetologist is removing these plugs. That is sebum. Sebum is a waxy substance. It's not an oil, and when you let it accumulate, what ends up happening is massive scalp infections, because there are so many different forms of yeast and bacteria that live on the human scalp, and when you let it overpopulate, you get scalp inflammation. Again, this is the sebaceous gland, and this is your skin. The sebaceous gland, it makes sebum, and as that sebum comes out, it has a clear passage to lubricate the scalp and everything else. But if you do not cleanse the scalp, or if you add oils and butters, what you do is you feed the natural yeast and bacteria that lives on the scalp. When you add grease and oils and butters, it clogs it, and it creates even more forms of yeast and bacteria that live in the scalp. This is why so many black women are like, oh my God, when I touch my scalp, it's burning, or it itches, or it's sensitive to touch, and it hurts when I comb it. Well, this is because all of your patterns and routines cause massive inflammation within the scalp follicle. Now, if we are not in a place where we are open to receive, where we are open to learning, then we never understand these things. It is a scientific fact that every human being walking the face of this earth has a sebaceous gland. It was something that was taught to our mothers and our grandmothers in the 60s. In the 60s, they used to be so corrupt in the cosmetology field, where they were teaching black women that the only people who have a sebaceous gland is people of Caucasian descent, and the sebaceous gland is a small pocket located in the back of the neck. But that's not true. It's not true. And you guys have been going with an old lie and an old narrative. Every living being, well, not every living being, but your dogs and your cats have a sebaceous gland, and you do too. And this sebaceous gland has one purpose, and that is producing sebum, right? And within the skin, right, within this follicle, you have debris from your makeup, from sweat, and all types of things. And all you do by adding oils and butters and grease to the scalp is feed those forms of yeast and bacteria. Now, in a second, we're going to talk about the cases where oil is recommended for use, but for everyday use, it is not recommended. This is why so many people who use Mielle Organics and the whole Mielle Organics craze is going is because you guys have been under this misconception or under this lie since the 60s that you don't have a sebaceous gland. This is what the sebaceous gland looks like in your hair's follicle right now. It produces sebum. Sebum excretes out of the scalp's pore. But along with that, you have your skin cell turnover cycle that I talked to you guys about, where every 28 days the skin cells die off and come up. But if you're constantly adding oil, you're multiplying all of the forms of yeast and bacteria that live on the scalp, and then you're creating inflammation. When we have something like seborrheic dermatitis, first there's a trigger, and then after the trigger there's inflammation, and then there's seborrheic dermatitis. So for everybody, right, it goes the trigger, which is oiling and greasing the scalp. That causes inflammation, which eventually leads to seborrheic dermatitis. And within my 7-day hair growth challenge and within the growth cycle blueprint, you learned the correct patterns, right, to put in place to keep the inflammation from happening. If you never trigger the inflammation, the skin cell turnover cycle is never disrupted, the sebaceous gland is never disrupted, because you are following said patterns. If you add additional oil, you're simply feeding the microbiome that lives there. If you're only using co-washing conditioner, you're not killing the forms of yeast and bacteria that you need to kill. If you're only using apple cider vinegar, you're not getting rid of the different forms of yeast and bacteria that you need to get rid of. Yes, apple cider vinegar is a powerful vegetable acid, but is it powerful enough to kill the forms of yeast and bacteria that live on the scalp, especially when you've been powering them up? Absolutely not. Now, this is one of my regular clients who has curly hair. As you can see, really, really thick curly hair, and she did not walk around with her hair wet, nor did she do wash and goes. She had so many options, but one of the main problems that you find on social media is they rage bait you, like, oh my god, she doesn't like that you're black, she's anti-natural. You don't have to wet your hair and walk outside air dry to have a curly big style. If you don't want flat hair, you can do a roller set, a perm rod set, a flexi rod set, so many things. So let's talk about oil. This is a herb infused oil, and when I say on my channel, I've said so many times, the only time an oil goes on the scalp is if it is treating an infection, right? When you go in to see a dermatologist after they give you a scalp biopsy, sometimes they give you a oil as a treatment, and some people are like, they're giving me an oil. No, baby, the oil is a carrier. So think about it like a wallet and some money, right? The wallet is what you're using to hold the money, but you're not just gonna walk around with the money just willy-nilly because it's windy outside and your money may blow away, right? So think of it like this. And of course, as I'm talking, look up on the screen, please get over it. No, we are not saying that the only way you can wear your hair is straight. I am saying that the laziness that is the Team Natural community, where all you do is throw products in your hair and walk outside, that needs to end. But back to this, when we're talking about Indian women, a lot of people love to bring up Indian women and how Indian women would put oil in their hair. Indian women and other races that put oil in their hair, they did not oil the scalp on a daily basis. It was not something that they did on a regular basis. It was something that would happen once a month, right? And once a month, they would oil their scalp with a herb infused oil that is non-comedogenic, and this would normally be after like they've been doing things that are really causing them to like sweat a lot, or if they're just feeling like their body really needs a detox. She's just removing hair extensions, and in the past she dealt with certain forms of scalp inflammation like seborrheic dermatitis. So this is an herb infused oil. Leave me some comments below if you are interested in figuring out, or not if you're interested in figuring out, if you can look at these herbs and see what it is. If you are a part of the growth cycle blueprint, there is a mixture in there, and this is the mixture that you would make yourself, right? This is the one. But anywho, this is being added to her scalp. She's going under a hooded dryer for about 15 minutes, and then her hair is completely detoxed. Her scalp and her hair shaft is completely detoxed. We do not need the oil to sit there. The oil acted as a carrier, right? Like I said, the oil is the wallet, and the money is the essential oil and the herb, right? So we use the oil as a carrier for all of the key constituents that we were pulling out of those herbs. Then they went on the scalp, killed the overgrowth of yeast and bacteria that lived on the scalp, and then we shampooed it out with an intense detoxifying treatment. These are the things that I want you to understand. Oil is not something that's just applied to the scalp on a regular basis. Just like water is amazing, but when it comes to plants, just because water is amazing doesn't mean that you're gonna go water your plant every single day, because what would happen? The roots would rot. Just because something has good properties does not mean that you can overuse that thing, because even something with amazing properties will damage the hair long term if it's not used correctly. So when you come across certain videos of certain people saying negative things about me, like, oh, she's anti-hair or she's anti-natural hair and all of that, I am anti-stupidity. And if you take offense to that, then take offense to it, because at the end of the day, you need to really, really sit down and understand what you're using certain tools for. And am I trying to be insulting? Absolutely not. If you don't know, you're not one of the people that I'm calling stupid. The people that I'm calling stupid are the people who get enraged and angry and start cussing and using profanity over disagreeing with basic science. What we're talking about right now is basic science, okay? And a lot of people go in to see dermatologists and they're like, oh, they're short with me. I tell them I need oil and they just throw me off. That is because no person who's been in school for 20 years wants to go back and forth about something that they learned in like their first month of school. You've been in school for 20 years, and then now your job has deduced to going back and forth with someone about what you learned your first couple of weeks of school is crazy. Okay? So these are things that I really, really want you to think about, because at the end of the day, our lack of care for the scientific field is the reason why we're so confused. We want to be segregated so bad. It's like we want products that only have our face on them. We want to believe that all of the science of the human body somehow changes because we have darker skin and curlier hair. And it's not true, right? There are just certain changes and certain edits that you need to make. But when I'm speaking of oils and butters, like, it's not something that needs to be added to the scalp on a regular basis. Why? We just looked at the sebaceous gland, and as this video is going, I want you guys to really pay attention to all of the comments that are popping up on screen, because I don't just have them there for no reason. The videos that are popping up, the comments that are popping up on the screen are from people who have either joined my 7-day challenge, the growth cycle blueprint, or they've just been watching my videos, thinking for themselves, doing their own research, applying it, and getting results. It's just as simple as that. It's not really something that needs to be argued about or something that you need to go back and forth about. When it comes to cosmetology school doesn't go deep into the sebaceous gland and all of the different inner workings of the hair's follicle. It doesn't, okay? So a person who only has been to cosmetology school would not know the things that I talk about here on my channel, and for that reason, they may get confused, or they may even call it misinformation information because it's something that they've never heard of. The same way that I am not going to be able to go back and forth with, let's say, a dentist. I remember I had a one-on-one consultation with a woman who was a dentist, and after we got done talking about her scalp issues and got to the bottom of her thing, somehow we ended up talking about toothpaste. And I was like, oh, I'll use fluoride-free toothpaste, and she explained things to me on a level that I had never thought about it before, because I don't know anything about teeth or dentistry, and I stayed in my lane, and I've made a switch and I've seen tremendous benefit. I stay in my lane, right? It's the same thing. Just because you learn one area of cosmetology does not mean that you know everything that there is to know about the human hair shaft and the human scalp. So it is really, really imperative that you take it upon yourself to fall in love with yourself and understanding your body. Within the 7-day challenge and within the growth cycle blueprint, I always talk to my gurus, telling them that this is a love affair when it comes to your hair. For over a decade, right, you guys have not been in love with your hair. It's the exact opposite. You dread doing your hair. You dread wash day because you don't understand your hair. You don't understand your scalp. For the last over a decade, right, you guys have been taught that your hair is a problem that needs to be fixed. Every product that you purchase is to fix something in your hair that you see as a problem or as an issue. It's never just a tool to help you with a pattern or a routine. And this is the issue. Most people are looking for shampoos and conditioners to hydrate and moisturize their hair, when in reality, the only thing you should be thinking about when it comes to a shampoo is it cleansing the scalp. That's it. And the only thing you should be thinking about as it pertains to a conditioner is putting back those things that the shampoo could have taken. Now, of course, depending on what style you're about to do, right, or what time of the year it is, that is what's going to determine what type of shampoos and conditioners you're using. For example, if you're about to get a protective style, then you will want to use moisturizing shampoos. Moisture and hydration are two completely different things. You are not hydrating your hair by adding shampoos, conditioners, and oils. Absolutely not. You only get hydration from the atmosphere and from the water that you drink. When you moisturize your hair, moisture is helping you to hold on to the hydration that you obtain from the environment, right? So it becomes imperative that your hair shaft has a limited amount of product on it so that the hair shaft can still receive the hydration that it needs from the environment, and then the cuticle can hold on to the moisture as much as it needs to. It is a holistic practice. The hair shaft is never supposed to be locked, but your patterns and your routines are meant to be in place so that way you can receive hydration and hold on to it at will. The cuticle of the hair shaft needs to be opened and closed at will whenever it needs to, right? When we say that the hair shaft is dead, you mean that the nerves in the hair shaft is dead, because if it wasn't, right, whenever you cut it, the hair, you would feel something the same way that you would feel a cut on your skin. But when it comes to the human hair shaft being dead and completely null and void from any moving organisms, is not true. Within the cortex of the hair shaft lives all of your melanin that determines the color of your hair. Within the cortex of the hair shaft lives your hydrogen bonds, your disulfide bonds, and your salt bonds, right? And all of these things are very important. I removed the sulfide bonds to make your hair straighter if you're getting a relaxer, and I add artificial disulfide bonds to your hair if I give you a perm, or if I give you a curl reformation. I first remove the disulfide bonds, and then to reform your curls, I then give you a new artificial set of disulfide bonds in a new curl pattern. There is a science to the hair shaft, and to say that the hair shaft that is dead, alluding to it being nothing in there that requires your attention, is not true. The hair shaft still needs oxygen flow on the inside and outside, and you layering products, you layering oils and butters do not do anything. Contrary to popular opinion, Google this and make sure you check the video linked in the description box below, because I have an entire live lecture on this. But oil is hydrophobic. Look up the word hydrophobic. Don't get mad at me, but a phobia is something that you repel, right? When something says phobic, it means like it repels it. I don't like it. Like when you say heterophobic, ooh, I don't like straight people. Homophobic, ooh, I don't like gay people. Like, I'm just being funny, but you know what I mean. So something that is hydrophobic is something that repels hydrogen. Do you hear me? Hydrophobic, it repels hydrogen atoms. What is water? H2O. I need you to understand, you guys. So when something is hydrophobic, it repels water. So something that is repelling water is not locking it in. It's keeping it from escaping because it can't get past it, because it's hydrophobic. So any moisture that was in the hair before you added oil can't get past it, because the oil is repelling the water. The water can't come close to it to leave when it needs to. And then when you put it on the hair shaft, again, water is hydrophobic. So it's not holding on to moisture. It's blocking the moisture from coming in at all, giving you the illusion that your hair is moisturized. This is why so many black women have hydro fatigue, because you have water locked in your hair with hydrophobic oils that prevent the water from leaving. And when you have hydro fatigue is when the hair's follicle is forced to be swollen and unswollen over and over again. And what does that? Hydrogen. Water. So the more water you have locked into the hair shaft, the more you increase your rates of hydro fatigue. This is why most of the time your hair is weak, because that epicuticle layer is weakened. If you don't know what the epicuticle is, make sure you check the link in the description box where I break down the epicuticle layer of the hair shaft. So many people are so confused about hair. And again, if you've only been to cosmetology school, unless you've been to a super duper scientifically based cosmetology school, most cosmetologists do not know what the epicuticle layer of the hair shaft is. I am a cosmetologist. That was the first certification that I got. So I am in no way, shape, or form trying to say that cosmetologists aren't smart or well-rounded. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, just because somebody has a cosmetology license does not mean that they know everything that there is to know about hair, which is one of the reasons, girl, that I still got a whole bunch of money in student loans that I'm gonna be paying off for a long time. Like, I'm gonna be a student for the next 9.5 years. I'm going for my PhD, but I have to I'm almost done with my master's. So yeah, this is something that I really want you guys to understand. It's so important. It's so important that you really get to understanding the complexity of the human scalp. Understanding that every single year, this blew me away. Every year you get over 30,000 new cosmetologists in the United States. And that has been since the day that I graduated cosmetology school. And I've had my license for going on 17 years. This is the 17th year. So for 17 years, every year for 17 years, there have been 30,000 new cosmetologists. And guess what? Out of those 30,000 cosmetologists, every single year, you maybe have 500 good ones. It's the truth. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. Anything that doesn't really have a super duper high level barrier for entry is going to be flooded with a bunch of people that shouldn't really be doing it. The same thing with taxes, right? This is something that I want you to think about. I love y'all. I'm not anti natural hair. I am anti making things up. I follow the science of the human body, just like this right now. This video is 6 years old. This was my friend's room. I wasn't doing hair at the time, but this is one of my regular clients that normally get scalp inflammation in the summertime every summer because of her practices, and I didn't want it to happen this year because we had just got her bald spot to grow back from the last summer, and it's from the oils, the butters, the greasing, and all of those things. That's one of the main reasons that I stepped away from the chair. Not her per se, this my boo. Not her per se, but just for the repetition. I'm like, I have to get this from a different angle. YouTube was not that angle. I just still do YouTube, and I still make YouTube videos because I love YouTube. But I do have my own private practice where I service a lot of clients, you guys. And across the board, one of the main issues that people have is basically them not being able to properly understand the logistics of the human scalp. We have been fed lies, and we refuse to let those lies go. We make those lies a part of our identity, and that's what ends up messing everybody up. Right now, what we're doing again is micro link extensions. So normally around the summer and things of that nature, she would want to do like certain box braids and things of that nature, but I just didn't want her to do that. And we had finally got to a good place. Her scalp is completely cleansed. I ended up checking her scalp again. The bacteria that was there before, you don't see it. Like, everything's good. Her Demodex mites were completely under control. So I'm like, I want your scalp to be free. But like, let's just be real. If you've been wearing weaves and extensions for the last 10 years or the last 5 or 6 years, and then it's like, okay, I'm gonna wear my hair, let's just be honest, a lot of women don't like the way that they look. It's a really big difference for them. So to get her used to it, we added a few beaded wefts, right? This is also something really, really good for you to do if you are a person like me. Like, I sweat in my scalp a lot, like a lot. So when I want to wear my hair out, which is in most of my videos, I add 2 beaded wefts. It's either 2 or 3 beaded wefts to my hair, like on a regular. So if I want to wear my hair out. So this is something that is really, really important for y'all to understand. And you adding beaded wefts to your hair, you adding hair extensions to your hair is a form of either extensions. This would be extensions, or what we're going to talk about next is one of my favorite protective styles, right? But this is what we did to get her used to wearing her own hair and having a follicles free of oils, butters, and grease. This is how I use oil if I ever used it in the hair salon. It is only a carrier, and this is the only time oils, butters, greases, or anything of that nature should be used in the human scalp. And this is something that I really want everybody to get into, because we make certain things so complicated when it does not have to be. Right? This is one of my regular clients. I love her to pieces. To call her a client is crazy. Like, Stacey is family. I love her so much. But this video is older too, and it's in a different room because, again, around this time I was retired, and I did like pop-ups from this brand that I really love. If you're a cosmetologist and you don't want to like pay weekly for a studio and you kind of just want to do pop-ups, try out HAIRSHAFT. They're freaking amazing. But yeah, even though I just lied, this video is not in HAIRSHAFT. Like, right now we in my studio, but the last video clip was, oh Lord, anyway, still whatever. Anyway, this is my studio, but in the previous videos that you see pop up, you're gonna see different rooms, and that's why. But this was my room. Anywho, so Stacy has been my client for years, right? I started doing her hair before my daughter was born, and my daughter is about to be 13 in December. So yes, she was my client for a very long time. Her hair has been down her back. I will grow her hair down to bra strap length, and then she'll be like, oh, let's cut it, let's do a bob. And that's what we would do. It would not be a problem. It was never a problem. She would get sew-ins and extensions, and her sew-ins always came like when her hair was really growing past the really short bob length that she wanted. She would be like, okay, let me think about growing it out. So put a weave in so I like how it look long, and then I'll grow it out. So that's basically what our pattern and routine was. And she wouldn't say that, but that's how she would do me all the time. Stacey used to stress me out cutting her hair after I grew it out. But anywho, so right now I am braiding down her hair. Her hair is rather strong, so I never really needed to add any extras to her hair. So as I am braiding her hair, I'm not adding shea butter to every single braid, or to like her hair all the way across, because shea has it's basically just a whole bunch of herbs mashed down together. But the thing is, shea butter will irritate the scalp a little bit because it's not meant to be on the skin, which is why you don't completely cover the hair in shea butter and then oil the scalp. It is for retention, so you only put it on the ends like when you finish braiding. If you were to put it on the ends right now, your braids sit directly on the scalp. A lot of people, because it feels good, right? This is a point where you would use a whole bunch of oil, right? Afterwards, you would use a whole bunch of oil. You just take a bottle of do-grow oil or whatever y'all squeeze, and just, you see cosmetologists and hairstylists saturate the scalp with grease. They do not do that because that's what you're supposed to do. They do it because when you're filming on camera, it's extremely aesthetically pleasing to see oil fill up somebody's scalp, especially when you believe that as a black person that's what you need, but you don't, right? Even if you experience a whole lot of hair growth when you have hair extensions, when you do it like that, everything works until it doesn't. Organics and different things like that have been out for a very long time. And the thing is, it's so many different additives within the product that should have made it so y'all never used it in the first place. Like soybean oil being the #1 carrier oil should have been the first red flag for you guys. But on top of that, you all put it in your scalp on a daily basis. So it's not that the ingredients were just so bad, it's that you're putting essential oils in your scalp every single day because you're under the preconceived notion that that's something that your scalp needs when it really doesn't, right? Her hair has already been cleansed and everything that needs to be done, and now she is ready to have her extensions put in. Now, she did not get like a scalp treatment or anything like that with oil or anything like that before her hair extensions. Why? Because she didn't need it. Just because you see oils and because it looks nice does not mean that that is something that you're supposed to do. I get it, like oils and butters and things of that nature in the scalp, it looks and feels good, but at the end of the day, it is not something that you need. Pay attention to what we just talked about earlier with the sebaceous gland, right? And how the sebum is coming directly out of the scalp. Well, your braids are sitting directly on your scalp. Please explain to me why you would need to add extra oil. Your hair shaft is never closer to the sebum that is coming out of your scalp than when it is in braids. And if you really think about it, if you don't add any oils or any butters or anything to your scalp and you take your braids out, most of the time your braids, your hair is oily. Like, you don't need any extra oils or butters to even comb your hair out because your hair is already completely saturated in your natural sebum. These are the things that y'all need to understand. These are the things that people need to think about. But because everything has been so demonized for so many years, then everything's haywire. Within the 7-day challenge in our group chat today, one of the gurus was like, hey Sam, like, can we vent? Like, I want to vent, guru. So I'm like, girl, take off, what's up? And basically she was like, she's only 26 years old, and she's just floored at how she really believed all of these different things, and how she's been in the 7-day challenge for a month now. And now after a month of these simple practices, her hair is so easy and simplistic to deal with. But she's like, whenever she goes and tries to share with other women, like, y'all, we doing it wrong, just try this, it's more simplistic. Instead of buying 6 or 7 products, you can buy like 4. Instead of spending 8 to 9 hours in your hair styling it and then it drying for 3 days, you can be done with shampooing and styling in an hour. Right? Like, they'll be like, no, we're not supposed to do that, get that away from me, and they'll shun it away. And I told her, listen, Black women have been under the Team Natural spell for about a good 17 years, because at least a minimum of 17 years. I'm saying 17 years because that's what I can remember, like shortly after about 15. I'm gonna say 15, because when I first got my cosmetology license, it wasn't a thing. But about 2 years in is when stuff starting. So I'm gonna say the last 15 years. So somebody who is only 26 years old, 15 years ago, you wasn't even 10 years old. So ever since Team Natural started, that has been the entire representation of your life and what hair care is and how it's supposed to go. Not to mention, if you were a baby and these are the patterns that you picked up, you only are following Team Natural practices because your mother was starting following Team Natural practices. Your mother came in on the beginning and was pregnant with you, or you were not pregnant with you, but you were a child. She had a 9-year-old child when the Team Natural community started. So as a woman with a 9-year-old, when the Team Natural community starts, you're going to just put it directly on your kids. And that's what happened, regardless of what anybody wants to say. The picture popped up somewhere on the screen. But again, there was a comment that I had that confirmed what I said, which was in the 60s, they used to teach them that there was no sebaceous gland. And the only people who had a sebaceous gland was white people, which is a lie. And Black women believed it. They went home and they taught that. They started businesses as cosmetologists, believing what their cosmetology instructor taught them, which was the human scalp only has a sebaceous gland if you are a white person, and every other race needs to add oils, butters, and greases to their scalp. And then they just started telling all of their clients like that. That's how they ran their business. That's what they went home and taught their children. That's what their children taught their children, and it spread like wildfire, the same way that the curl typing chart, which was an afterthought for Black women, spread like wildfires. Y'all are not doing anything new. History is just constantly repeating itself over and over and over again. And guess what? Back then, when the women were like, oh, only white people have a sebaceous gland, there were also mothers, right? Our mothers and grandmothers that are like me, who was like, no, that's a lie. I don't care what they said in school. That is a lie. Everybody has a sebaceous gland, and we need to keep oils, butters, and grease off of our scalp. There were so many women my mother's age that were like, no oils, don't you put no oil in your scalp, don't you grease your scalp. But the things that make money off of you are louder, and it's always been that way. It's not new. Some of the same companies that are buying and making these Team Natural brands right now are the same companies that were around back then, telling these lies to Black women that you guys won't let go of today. And year after year, decade after decade, there are always people who get online, and because they're so angry and because their steps and their patterns match and coincide with the things that you've been taught your whole life, it feels knows better, so you believe them and you jump on their bandwagon. But the reality of the situation is, normally the person who's telling the truth is not the loudest person. Normally the one who's telling the truth isn't the angry one screaming online, right? So that's something that you need to pay attention to. The easiest route normally is the route that you probably shouldn't be taking. And this is something that we all really need to think about, because it's normal for you to feel away when I say, no, the things that you've been taught since you were a little girl, all of it was wrong. You need to stop all of the different things that you've been doing and learn something new and get new results. It's going to be shaking. If you're not a woman that's good with looking in the mirror, if you're not a woman that is good with having accountability, then it's going to be a problem. All right. I am a mirror in this realm, and I'm going to force you to look at yourself. And sometimes when you look at yourself, you're not gonna like what you see. Sometimes when you look at yourself, you're gonna say, oh my God, I'm the person she's talking about. I'm doing all of the things that she said that you shouldn't do. And even though I'm not experiencing anything now, I've been watching her video and I've been seeing women that are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s say, hey, I've been doing all of these things for years, and now 30 years later I'm balding. Can you please help me? Or I understand, you were right, I'm gonna change. These are things that we need to look at. You only gain wisdom from your experience, and if we do not gain wisdom from the experience of the people who came before us, then we go nowhere. If we let rage bait us into different things, then we'll never get anywhere. The members of the channel, they got a different version of this video. They know exactly who the person was that I played at the very beginning, but I decided to do it like this because I need y'all to understand that the person doesn't matter. It is the energy that is being passed from generation to generation to generation to generation. And breaking generational curses is about breaking generational patterns. All right. I am breaking a pattern, and if you want to stick to the pattern, I love and I respect you enough to respect your choice to stay locked into that pattern. But what I need from you, my love, is to respect the choices of people around you who have chosen to break free from the mental brainwash. Okay, because upon stepping from behind the chair, diving deeper into cosmetology, trichology, herbalism, and all of these different points of the industry, you can see what truly lies beneath. And once you see what's beneath, you can never unsee it again. So guess what? It does not matter who makes a video, who says what, who calls me a fraud. It does not matter. I will never stop saying the things that I say. You know why? I have receipts. And for every one person who says that I'm wrong, there are 100 more that get results that they've never gotten before. There are 100 more whose hair and scalp feels a way that it's never felt before, and they can't believe that all they had to do was stop layering products. All they had to do was stop following these hacks and these lies, and things could be oh so simple and oh so simplistic. Hair, when it comes to hair extensions and weaves and things of that nature, it is a form of a protective style, just like box braids, just like crochet braids. It's just a different form of application, right? With crochet braids, I braid your hair and then I take artificial hair and I crochet it in, whereas with hair extensions, I braid your hair and then I take silk or nylon thread, I take wefts, and then I attach it to the hair with the needle and thread instead of with a crochet hook and a crochet braid. But it is the same exact thing. thing, you guys. It's just all about how you decide to do it, and all about your scalp's profile, the time frame that you leave it in, how you put it in, and all of the different bells and whistles, you guys. So I really hope that this video gave you guys a little bit more clarity. Next week we are going to hop deep into herbs and things of that nature, but I really wanted to come here and talk about this because for me, what I've noticed is this is the part that's so confusing for people. There is like a chokehold. It's almost like it's spiritual, because no matter what, it's almost like grease and oils and butters are calling and screaming your name, and someone telling you to just put it to the side. You don't have to throw it away. You don't have to throw it away. Give me a month of not using it and do the things that I'm telling you to do instead, and then see what happens. And every time I get messages like, oh my God, see, you were right. I cannot believe that I've made hair care this complicated. I can't believe that I've been following all of these people, spending all of this money, putting all of this stuff in my hair, and this is all I ever had to do. It is a fact, and you can believe what you want to believe. It doesn't matter how many videos are made about me or how many times anybody attacks my character. Facts will always remain facts, and the proof is in the pudding, baby. So thank you guys so much for sticking around with me, and I love that you guys love these new longer videos. Don't be a part of the Rat Pack. If you haven't done so already, make sure you give this video a thumbs up after you subscribe and click on that bell notification. Bye.